So I created some new affirmations that I've been saying daily, and one of them is about I'm not invisible. And so I have a very interesting relationship with invisibility. Sometimes I want to be invisible, sometimes I don't. I realized recently there was a Zoom that I did. I run an animation group, and we haven't met up in several months, so we go around and say what we've been doing. I mentioned that I've almost interviewed 100 Black animation professionals. That's a goal for this year. And then, like, nobody said anything, which several years ago I did a YouTube live on my YouTube channel where the sole purpose was to call out how sometimes Black men in the animation industry don't hype up Black women. But then we talked about all these things and forgot to bring that up. But it's still a pervading thing that happens where Black men in various spaces are able to hype up each other, but they don't hype up Black women. So I say this, nobody congratulates me or anything. And so in the chat, I was like, congrats to me and thanks to everyone in this group that I have interviewed. Another instance, I've been going to Leimert Park for this thing called the Healing Circle because as I'm living in LA, I want to have like the LA experience. I don't really want to have the Hollywood experience. So I've been trying to go to Black spaces as much as possible. The Healing Circle is pretty much just Black people talking about stuff every Monday. So we're talking, and the topic is how can we cultivate grace in our community. If anybody knows me, I hate like bad moderation. So sometimes people get to talk like for too long. And so it took me about 15-20 minutes to say my piece for the first time. And then a couple people, there's one person who just talks for a long time. And then there's this young girl who's always trying to give advice, but it's just like, stop trying to give people advice. Around the circle, we had established like, oh, I'm gonna go next. I said it audibly. I'm gonna go next. You gonna go next, and then dude gonna go next. So this person talks for like 10 minutes, like a long time. I try to hop in and say my piece, and the leader of the group was like, oh, how about we let this dude speak, which I understand because he hadn't talked. But I just was like, oh my, like we already established. Like, y'all let people talk so long. It just was me, like, outwardly complaining, which I really don't do. And you could kind of think either way about it because the dude already didn't speak. But if you hadn't let her speak for, like, 10 minutes and then let the young girl interject and then let her speak for another 5 minutes, I could have went, and then the other person could have went, and then he could have went, and it would have been all fine. And if you were like paying attention to us, like trying to have some organization to it, because people kind of just talk whenever they want. But I say that to say, in my affirmation of being not invisible, people didn't all of a sudden stop treating me as invisible. I just started taking up more space, and I've done that in various areas. But I just wanted to kind of share that because sometimes we think of our affirmations or our wants as other people are going to change, and it's actually maybe us that is going to change. I do a lot of things in my community, I do a lot of things in my industry, and people really don't say anything about it. But sometimes you should be acknowledged for what you're doing, particularly when you're doing it to highlight other people. I realized that I didn't allow other people to treat me as not being invisible. I just decided to take up the space so that I was not invisible. And sometimes it's going to be off-putting, like my second example, and people could maybe disagree with it, but I still wanted to share that I decided for myself that no, you're not going to like ignore me, and I'm going to advocate for myself. Sometimes we need to take the reins of our life and be the change that we want to see. So if we want to change how other people think of us, maybe we should change how we behave. Not necessarily in a bad way, but you teach people how to treat you. So I did.